Hello, my name is Ethel Kruger, and I'm with the Nebraska Veterans Memorial Foundation Share Your Story project. Bellevue University is a sponsor of the Nebraska Vietnam Veterans Memorial Park project. I am here at the Bellevue University Military Veterans Services Center with Daniel Hawkins, Army veteran, who has agreed to share his story for Library of Congress Veteran History Project and the Nebraska Vietnam Memorial Park Project. Dan, let's begin with your full name and...
My full name is Daniel Elliott Hawkins. I was born January 26, 1946. I went some of my history. I just went to Pershing Elementary School, and I went to Omaha Technical High School. That takes me up to about when, in high school and stuff like this. I got drafted one day after I turned 18. And I joined the Army. I didn't want to be a U.S., I wanted to be an RA, because I didn't want to be infantry. So anyway, I picked construction with the engineers, and I got a specialty in asphalt, concrete, and heavy equipment construction. After graduating from engineering school, I was sent over to Germany to the 249th Engineer Battalion in Karlsruhe, Germany, with MOS of 62D and 62E. I worked in construction most of that summer for the engineers, and then I tried out for the engineer rifle team. And we shot various rifle matches all over Europe, and I won 5 first place trophies, 2 team trophies, and a second place individual team and trophy, or an individual and team trophy, plus 2 third place trophies. I was picked up by the USAR All-Army Rifle Team. I shot various rifle matches in Europe and in the United States. And I met a person named Gary Anderson. He was an Olympic world champion, and that was a big feather in my hat to meet somebody like that. Then, when we were doing so good on our rifle matches, Army decided they wanted to draft the top 50 marksmanship people for a special mission for duty that was classified. I spent a little over a year over in this classified zone area, and I was returned to the 249th Engineer Battalion, where I, got back, kind of downloaded from our 13-month mission that was classified. I met my wife, we dated, and I got married between rifle matches, and 11th of March 1969, we got married. I was ETS to the States in '69, and they wanted me to re-enlist for E6, and I said, nah, I don't think so. So, I was kind of filled up with the military and stuff like this for a while. We moved back to Omaha, we bought a home. I worked in construction, and one of my things while living with our home we bought in Carter Lake, Iowa, is I joined the Carter Lake Volunteer Fire Department. And I went through EMT school, paramedic school, underwater rescue and recovery diving school. And it was really interesting to be a volunteer fire and rescue paramedic. And I was the first paramedic on our fire department. So after 11 years of being out of the service, and where I completed my paramedic training, a National Guard person showed up and at my door, and he wanted me to join the National Guard. So, like a fool, he talked me into it, and I went through their MOS training as a 91 Alpha and a 91 Charlie as a combat medic and a combat paramedic. The 3 years that I was in the National Guard was exciting. I got to do a lot of things and stuff like this, but I couldn't get promoted. So, you know, it was just a good old boy system that they had going at the time. And a friend of mine that was on my Carter Lake Fire Department was in the reserves, and he was in a CAV unit, first of the 322nd CAV. And he told me, he says, come over here, he says, we got all kinds of slots for you to make. So that weekend, I went over to the CAV unit and signed up to be cavalry scout. And I was slotted in an E7 slot as a training NCO. And, you know, my rank was from a Spec 5 when I was in the National Guard was changed to a 3-stripe hard sergeant that same weekend. So, you know, I went to the 19 Delta Cav MOS training at Fort Knox and was awarded the MOS, and I made E6 and went to E7 in 5 years. And then when I was E7, I went and prepped for First Sergeant's course at E8, and I was promoted 2 years later to a First Sergeant. I went to drill sergeant school also during my time. You know, being in construction, I had a lot of time off, so, you know, I went to school after school after school. And then in 1997, our unit was downsized, and our drill unit and stuff like this for the CAV was decommissioned, and I was transferred to the 302nd MP unit in Omaha. And you know, being 4 years in the CAV as a first sergeant, you know, it was pretty good. But I you know, didn't get much out of the MP unit, but I did get the MOS. And I collected a lot of MOSs when I was in there. I jumped around. It was big time getting an MOS here and an MOS there. So then my MP unit, it was a POW unit at the time, and let's see, after going to Fort McClellan, got the MOS as an MP, the unit was downsized again. And I was transferred to the 561st Corps Support Group. The 561st Corps Support Group was in Omaha, and they had an awful lot of slots in their high-ranking slots, 6, 7, and 8. And you know, since I was a first sergeant, they asked me if I wanted to be a first sergeant, because their first sergeant was lead. And I said, no, I had 3 years of that. I don't want to babysit no more. So, anyway, I asked them what other slots they had, and they said, well, they have an E8 NBC slot, which is nuclear, chemical, and biological. And I asked him, how many's in the unit? And he says, there'll be one, you. I said, that's my kind of slot. You know, so they signed me up to it, and they sent me off to NBC school at Fort McClellan. And NBC was so fascinating that, you know, with the different things that you could do in it and stuff like this, and I fell in love with that school, with the NBC, and I started going after designators, you know, going to this school for that type of training and other trainings and stuff like this, and you know, I ended up with 4 different designators, and I really found my niche you know, in NBC. And then an E8 or an E9 slot opened up, and they wanted me, you know, to go to school. So while I was in that school, I went to Sergeant Major's course, you know, to the school, and it was right here in Omaha. I didn't have to go away except for the 2-week training and stuff like this, where they, down in Texas, where they were doing the schooling and stuff like this. And, you know, I got that course done, and they offered me a couple slots to go to Sergeant Major's course, or I mean, take over Sergeant Major's position. One was in Rockford, Illinois, and the other one was in Kansas City at Wichita. And I turned them both down because my wife at that time had started having medical problems, and she needed me to stay home, so I turned it down. And I stayed as a master sergeant in the NBC. In 2004, our units were activated for Iraq and Afghanistan. We started prepping for mobbing, and we moved to Fort Riley on our MOB. We shipped out to Iraq in 2005 to Al-Assad with the 561st. My duties were control over NBC companies in the Syrian border to Baghdad. We were searching mainly for chemical weapons which were found and buried. We found a jet fighter and stores of ammunition, and we found a lot of bunkers that were hot with MBC and chemicals, and you know, we just basically closed them off and buried them, you know, to keep everybody safe. And then while I was over there in March, April of 2008, my first sergeant had a heart attack, and they shipped him out to Germany. And I was the only one in the unit that had first sergeant duties and with school as a first sergeant. They asked me to take over the position, plus keep my duties as an NBC NCO. And which, no problem. You know, it was fairly easy. Luckily, I had two beautiful, fine, on-the-ball E6s in my unit that done the paperwork for me, and basically I looked it over and I signed it and carried out the duties. I mean, you know, I was there in title only as a first sergeant. Well, you know, they done 85% of the paperwork for me and stuff like this, and I just had to go to a couple meetings and stuff like this, you know, as a first sergeant, and, you know, give my report as a first sergeant and give my report as an NBC person. And then we had in late May of June, Sergeant Major in my S3 department, or in the unit and stuff like this, she had a situation. She was relieved of duties because she lost 2 sat phones and 2 M16s. And there was a big deal over that, and she was shipped out and to the state for statesides and to be discharged. Well, the S3 section that I was in needed a sergeant major slot filled, and I was the only personnel that had been a sergeant major academy. The commander added the duties of the S3 sergeant major to me as extra duties since I was in the S3 section. Being NBC NCOIC, the first sergeant and sergeant major duties was not too bad. I had a lot of good soldiers that really stepped forward to help with most of the duties as first sergeant and sergeant major paperwork. I just signed paperwork. Then in August of that year, we had a bad rocket attack, and I was injured, and I was sent to the med hospital at Al-Assad, but I wasn't good enough to be shipped home. So the last 3 months I had to stay over there and get treatment at the med hospital at Al-Assad. And, you know, just get the treatments and suck it up and till we shipped out 14 months after we left, or we were in Iraq. 2007, we shipped out to Fort Riley, Kansas, and to go home. Well, I got stuck at Fort Riley, Kansas for 6 weeks as a med holdover for my injuries with the back injury I got. I got a compression injury over there. And Fort Riley didn't have any neurosurgeons at the time, you know, that could do anything for me. So they shipped me back to Omaha with my unit and get surgery from a civilian doctor, which was, you know, a good idea. I was home, you know, and basically with family and stuff, and then I was treated at the VA hospital here in Omaha. Finally, after the treatments and, you know, another surgery on my back, finally the Army discharged me, and I was 62 years old. I got 2 extra years out of them. I retired, you know, as a master sergeant, first sergeant, but I was getting paid as a sergeant major, and I didn't realize this. And when I called up in Wisconsin to find out why my pay was a little more, they said, "Oh, you were acting sergeant major over in Iraq. You know, you weren't frocked or anything, but you were doing the duties and stuff like this. So somebody put me in that I should get the pay for sergeant major's retirement," which, you know, I loved it. It was a, you know, I loved it. Give it a woohoo. Excuse me. Then in 2007, 2008, well, actually 2008, I had a chance to join the Returning Veterans Resource Network in Omaha. I had problems with PTSD problems from Iraq and from my classified duties overseas. One of the Marine helicopters at Al-Assad went out to retrieve a sniper team that they had out there, and the sniper team was compromised. They had deceased and injured people, so the helicopter, you know, a quick reaction force, QRF team went out, and they hit a sandstorm, and their chopper went down. And they lost 38 people in that chopper. So they sent out another QRF team to bring them back. We, being at up in Al-Assad, with a med team, and we had a mortuary affairs team. So the Marines come over and asked us if we'd help, you know, unload their people, because they didn't have enough people there. It was just like a satellite unit to send them off to different units out there. So we were unloading the deceased bodies and, you know, body bagging them, transferring to our mortuary affairs team. And hold on a second. Anyway, my PTSD started when we got down to about the third last person that was in the back of the helicopter, and we was getting ready to load him up in a body bag. And this young gentleman could have passed for an identical twin of my 17-year-old grandson. And something snapped in me. And I just lost it, you know. Being overseas in classified area where I was at, where there was a lot of action and stuff like this, and then over in Iraq where we had, you know, a lot of stuff going on. I don't know, I just lost it, and I had to back out, and I wasn't quite the same, and I had PTSD and I didn't know it. And so, in coming back to the present, that I got PTSD help from the Returning Veterans Resource Network and through the VA, and I got training for my PTSD, and as you know, which cleared up a lot of the cobwebs that we had, you know, and I beat my PTSD. Well, I won't say I beat it, I always have it, but I am manageable about it. I'm able to manage it with no problems. You know, very seldom that I will have a dark moment. But anyway, our instructor for the PTSD class that we went through and stuff like this, she asked us if I would be willing to go to Minneapolis to go to a peer training course, you know, and so 4 of us went up to Minneapolis to get our supports, you know, as a support specialist, peer support specialist, and you know, be more of an asset to the white coats. You know, white coats is my terminology for psychiatrists and psychologists. You know, it's one of my little digs for them. They're book trained, but they're not, how would you say it, trained in reality. No military experience or anything like that. So, you know, which would be a great asset to them. And then working with the Veterans Resource Network now, we help others with our group, and you know, plus the VA as peer support specialist. And you know, I've been with returning veterans now since 2008, which is about 13 years, if I can remember right, something like that. You guys with a calculator have to figure that out. But I enjoy helping, you know, a lot of the people that do have problems, don't know that they have problems. And we try to work with them. And I have no regrets. You know, if I had to do this all over again, you know, everything's under control. And life is at its fullest right now with me. One of the things I do, you know, with my group and stuff like this, I work under the table with a lot of personnel that have PTSD problems that are still in the military, and they have 17, 18, 19 years in. And they can't tell Uncle Sugar Daddy that they have a problem, you know, with PTSD. Otherwise they're going to get flagged, they're going to get rifted. And, you know, a guy's got 18, 19 years old, all of a sudden, man, they throw him out because he's got PTSD. So all the training that I've had, what we put out in class is the same thing that I talk to them to, you know, and work with them. And, you know, I just don't want to see these people rifted. And so I help them with peer support training and all that I have learned from the Veterans Resource Network. None of them have been discharged, and they've managed to be doing okay and even better. You know, and there's many programs that we're working on right now with, you know, the Veterans Resource Network, and trying to help veterans in the community, and then plus family members. And we've kind of branched out now to go with our family members, because not only does the soldier or the military personnel have PTSD, but the spouses and the kids have PTSD. And my wife, you know, who I've been married to for 54 years, has PTSD, you know, and we work together on this stuff. And, you know, a lot of family members need help, counseling and stuff like this, and it's just something that, you know, I'm trying to give back what I can give back that was given to me. I can't remember everything in my life, but, you know, hope that this story of me will inspire others to tell their adventures in life and for others to follow. Right now I'm working on a book for being a meme master. It's one of my hobbies I've done, and many people that are in the military or former military people are on my list for sending out memes. And so far I've collected close to 40,000 memes that I've sent out, and I'm compiling a book with other people to make a book on it. And also, you know, I got bored, so now I'm working on a cookbook. I've taken different recipes and stuff like this. I'm not claiming it for myself, but you know, I found a ton of recipes and stuff that I thought were great, and I'm throwing together a cookbook, you know, and hopefully that somebody wants to copy all these yummy recipes, and I've tried many of them and I put on weight since I've been doing all this fancy cooking, and it's been a joy. You know, I mean, this is one of the things that I do, try to occupy my time, you know, because although I am handicapped and I can't move around a lot, I have to use a walker, you know, for mobility, and when I'm in the house I usually use my wheelchair to get around. And so, you know, these are things that keep me occupied and keep me going. Plus, you know, we have our meetings, and I have my conversations with a lot of my fellow military personnel that I keep in contact daily. And we try to have, you know, all our Iraqi people that we're together with, we try to have meetings, you know, at least a couple times a year, get together and, you know, hash over things and stuff like this. And so, you know, it's one of the good things that helps inspire me to keep motivated. And you know, really, I don't know what else I can think of, you know, to keep me going, to keep me cheerful, keep a smile. But you know, hopefully this will inspire a couple other people, or even if it's one person, you know, to hear my story and say, wow, I want to be just like him. And that's about all I have, and I appreciate the time that I've been given to give this, well, I wouldn't say speech, but my testimony to you, whoever wants to listen to it. And if you have any questions, you know, you want to go back over and recap some of what I've been through or anything like that, feel free to do it. Let me get a drink first.
Yeah. You mentioned about being drafted. Were your parents alive, and what siblings do you have?
Yeah, I have 6 brothers and sisters. They're all younger. I'm the oldest one. Or 7 brothers and sisters, I'm sorry. There was 8 of us in the family. 2 of my younger brothers are passed away, both of them to Agent Orange, from when they were stationed over in Vietnam and those areas. And so I lost them, but I have, you know, my other brothers and sisters who I keep in contact with. Growing up, my father was an alcoholic, and you know, there was a lot of family abuse, so you know, I don't like to talk about it and stuff like this. And then you know, like when I got my draft notice, you know, I was surprised, but yet I was relieved, because I was going to get out of the house. And, you know, I wasn't going to be there for that stuff to see the abuse that was going on. So, you know, and this goes back to some of my PTSD, you know, it's kind of haunts me, but it doesn't bother me anymore, stuff like this. But, you know, when I got drafted, I went and seen a recruiter right away, and, you know, I went and signed up for 1 more year instead of, you know, like I said, being infantry. I took the 1 year so longer so I could get what I wanted, and I think it was the best thing that I did. You know, I wouldn't change anything that's happened in my life, except maybe I wouldn't have broke so many bones and stuff like this, you know. And had surgeries, but other than that, you know, that I'm proud of what I did, and you know, I enjoy the camaraderie I get, especially with the returning veterans.
So were you in combat at all, or?
That's classified,
Most-
ma'am.
okay.
I can't say anything about that.
Okay. Understand. And you mentioned you still keep in touch with some of the people that you served with?
Right, there's about 65 of them that I still keep in contact. And then through my memes, there's many other military personnel that I know and stuff like this. And I have about 240 personnel that I send out daily memes to them. And my memes consist of about 10 to 15 memes per day. And, you know, that's about 600 a month that I send out. So, you know, it's something fun. You should get on my meme list. You're about the only one that's not on it.
I think you answered a lot of them, covered a lot of what I would be interested in.
Well, there's probably a lot of things that, you know, I didn't cover, that, you know, I probably could have covered, but I don't want to sit here like a blowhard and just honk my horn the whole time.
Sure, sure.
You know.
Any other closing comments?
No, except that if you have any problems with PTSD, I would suggest that you get support for it. Because this PTSD can be very troubling. It's caused a lot of problems through families and stuff like this. It's wrecks marriages. A lot of people, you know, tend to turn to drugs and alcohol and stuff like this, and they don't even know it. And, you know, you talk to them, and I don't have any problems. You know, a lot of them don't admit that they have PTSD. But it's serious, and you know, a person like myself or many of my other ones, you know, when we, you know, talk to these people and counsel them, we can see that they do have problems, in which we try to, you know, facilitate help for them, you know, get them to go to classes, you know, to attend our meetings and stuff like this, which really does, it has great benefits. And, you know, speaking for myself, that's needed help, got help, and now I'm repaying it back, you know, by giving aid and comfort to these people that have it, that don't know they have it, and with their family members and stuff like this. So we just, you know, we try to do as much as we can. And every person that we can, you know, help through this, it's a blessing, you know. God gave me a special gift, being able to flap my gums and talk to people, and you know, to be a helper. You know, and I've tried to do that all my life. You know, through different things with being in the military and with the fire department, and you know, coming here to this Veterans Resource Network and through the VA and stuff like this. So, you know, I don't know what more I can say. You know, you got to have the questions. I can't think of anything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fine. Thank you for taking the time to share your story.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I just, you know, hope that somebody can gain something out of this, and, you know, not read too deep into me, but, you know, what I can do to help them. So, you know, thank you.